The stars trembled when the Valdari fleet moved through space. Their ships looked like giant crystals floating in the darkness, each one glowing with soft blue light. These were not ordinary ships built from metal and steel. They were grown from living crystal that could heal itself and bend light around it like water. Emperor Corvin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Infinite Harmony. The ship was 5 miles long and carved from a single piece of perfect crystal. Through its clear walls he could see his fleet of 10,000 ships spread across the void like diamonds scattered on black cloth. Each ship hummed with power that could crack planets in half. Corvin was tall and thin, with skin that sparkled like ice in sunlight. His people, the Valdari, had conquered 17 galaxies in 300 years. They had never lost a war. They had never even lost a battle. Their secret was simple: perfect harmony. Every Valdari ship worked like a musical instrument. Their weapons sang as they fired, creating sound waves that could tear apart anything they touched. Their shields were made of pure harmony, bouncing back any attack by matching its rhythm and throwing it away. When Valdari ships fought together, they created a symphony of destruction that no enemy could stand against. "Report," Corvin said to his fleet commander, a female Valdari named Thyra. Her crystal skin was darker than his, showing her many years of service. "We approach the 18th galaxy, my emperor," Thyra said. Her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Our scouts have finished studying the local species. They call themselves humans." Corvin smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Tell me about these humans." Thyra touched a crystal panel, and images appeared in the air above them. The pictures showed a small blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. Other images showed strange creatures with soft pink skin and no crystal shine at all. "They are very primitive, my emperor," Thyra explained. "They have only left their homeworld in the last few hundred years. Their ships are made of crude metal. Their weapons shoot simple bullets and basic energy beams. Their shields are weak barriers that break easily." The images changed to show human ships. They were ugly things made of gray metal with sharp edges, and lots of extra parts stuck on the outside. Smoke came from their engines. They looked like they might fall apart at any moment. Corvin laughed. The sound was like breaking glass. "These are the creatures that think they can resist the Valdari Empire? How many worlds do they control?" "Only 47 planets and some space stations," Thyra said. "Their biggest fleet has maybe 1,000 ships. Each ship is smaller than our smallest scout vessel." "Pathetic," Corvin said. He walked to the great window that formed the front of his bridge. Stars moved past them as the fleet traveled faster than light itself. "How long until we reach their space?" 3 days, my emperor." Corvin nodded. "Prepare the standard ultimatum. Tell them they have one chance to surrender. If they give up their weapons and accept Valdari rule, we will let them live. If they refuse, we will destroy every human ship, every human world, every human life in the galaxy." This was how the Valdari always did things. They had learned long ago that most species would rather live as slaves than die as free beings. Fear was a powerful weapon, sometimes more useful than their crystal ships. "My emperor," Thyra said carefully, "there is something strange about these humans." "Oh?" Corvin turned to look at her. "What could be strange about such a weak species?" "Our scouts watched their wars. Humans fight each other often, but they fight in very odd ways. They do not follow proper battle tactics. Their ships move in patterns that make no sense. Sometimes they win battles they should have lost." Corvin waved a crystal hand. "Luck. Weak species sometimes get lucky. It does not matter. Luck cannot stand against perfect harmony." But Thyra looked worried. "There is more, my emperor. When humans are losing a battle, they do not surrender like other species. They fight harder. Sometimes they damage their own ships on purpose to make them explode near enemy vessels." "Suicide attacks," Corvin said with disgust. "The sign of a truly desperate species. This makes me think even less of them." "Yes, my emperor, but there is something else. Human ships often work better when they are damaged. Our scouts saw human vessels that should have been destroyed but somehow kept fighting. Their engines fail, so they use backup engines. Their weapons break, so they used the broken pieces as new weapons. Corvin was quiet for a long moment. In all their wars, the Valdari had never fought an enemy that got stronger as it got weaker. Their own ships were built for perfection. When something broke, it either got fixed properly or the ship became useless. "It does not matter," he said finally. "Chaos cannot defeat order. Confusion cannot win against harmony. We have destroyed species far more advanced than these humans. Some had weapons that could burn suns. Others had shields that could stop time itself. All fell before the perfect symphony of the Valdari fleet. The next day, they entered the galaxy humans called the Milky Way. It was smaller than most galaxies the Valdari had conquered, with only a few 100 billion stars. Most of those stars had no planets at all. The ones that did have planets mostly had dead rocks or balls of poisonous gas. Corvin was disappointed. "This galaxy is barely worth our time," he said to Thera. "We could have stayed home and let this place die on its own." But Thyra pointed to a section of the galaxy where dozens of stars glowed brighter on their maps. "The humans are there, my emperor. That is where they have built their colonies." Corvin studied the human territory. It was tiny compared to the great Valdari Empire, but something about it looked different. The human colonies were not arranged in neat patterns like proper civilizations. Instead, they spread out in messy clusters with trade routes that twisted and turned instead of going straight from star to star. "They build like children," Corvin said. "No order, no planning, no beauty." "Shall I send the ultimatum, my emperor?" "Yes, send it to every human world at the same time. Let them know that the Valdari Empire has arrived. Give them exactly 24 of their hours to respond." The message went out across space, carried by quantum waves that traveled faster than light. It reached every human colony, every human ship, every human station in the galaxy at the same moment. The message was simple. "People of the human species, you are now in the territory of the Valdari Empire. You have 24 hours to surrender all military forces and accept integration into our civilization. If you refuse, you will be destroyed. This is your only warning." Corvin expected the usual response. Most species sent back desperate messages begging for more time. Others tried to negotiate, offering tribute or promising to serve the Empire, willingly. A few simply went silent, hoping the Valdari would forget about them. But the human response was different. It came back in less than 1 hour, broadcast from their home world Earth to every Valdari ship in the fleet. The message had only 4 words: "Come and take them." Corvin stared at the communication screen for a long time. No species had ever responded to a Valdari ultimatum with a challenge. Most enemies were too scared to even answer back. "My emperor," Thyra said quietly. "What are your orders?" Corvin's crystal skin began to glow brighter with anger. "They want to test the might of the Valdari Empire? Very well. Set course for their home system. We will show these humans what happens when primitive creatures dare to defy perfect harmony." As the great crystal fleet turned toward Earth, Corvin felt something he had not experienced in centuries of conquest. It was not fear. The Valdari had forgotten how to feel fear long ago. It was curiosity. What kind of species looked at impossible odds and chose to fight anyway? Soon he would find out. The Valdari Empire was about to meet humanity, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Daesung stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship was not pretty like the vessels in the recruitment videos. The Defiant looked like someone had taken 3 different ships and welded them together in a hurry. Parts of it were painted gray, other parts were bare metal, and some sections still had scorch marks from the last battle. But Daesung loved his ugly ship. She had brought him and his crew through 12 missions that should have killed them all. The Defiant was fast, tough, and full of surprises. Most importantly, she never gave up, just like her crew. "Captain," said Chief Engineer Bora from her station near the back of the bridge, "I'm getting some weird readings from the new drive system. It's working, but I'm not sure how." Bora was small and thin, with oil stains on her uniform and a tool belt that looked like it weighed more than she did. She had been fixing impossible problems since she was old enough to hold a wrench. Her parents had wanted her to be a doctor, But Bo-Ra preferred machines to people. Machines made sense even when they were broken. Define weird, Dae-sung said. He had learned not to worry when Bo-Ra said something was working strangely. Half the ship's systems worked in ways that no manual could explain. Well, according to the computer, we should have blown up 3 times in the last hour, Bo-Ra said. But we're going faster than we ever have before, and the engine temperature is actually going down instead of up. Weapons Officer Taemin looked up from his console. He was a big man with gentle eyes who spent his free time reading poetry. Most people thought it was strange for a weapons officer to love poems, but Taemin said that both poetry and combat were about finding the right rhythm. Maybe the ship is learning, Taemin suggested, like how my targeting system gets more accurate the longer I use it. Navigator Hae-jin laughed from her station. She was young, maybe 25, but she could plot a course through an asteroid field blindfolded. Ships don't learn, Taemin. They're just machines. Are they? Asked Medical Officer Sung-ho. He was the oldest member of the crew, with gray hair and a quiet voice. Before joining the Defiant, he had been a xenobiologist, studying alien life, Orcs. I've been thinking about that. Human ships break down and get repaired so many times that they end up different from how they started. Maybe that's a kind of evolution. Dae-sung listened to his crew talk while he studied the tactical display. 3 days ago, Earth High Command had received the Valdari ultimatum. The alien message had been broadcast to every human world at the same time in perfect human language with no mistakes. That scared the admirals more than the threat itself. An enemy that could learn human language perfectly in just a few hours was an enemy that should not be underestimated. But humanity had never been good at backing down from a fight, even when they should. The official response, "Come and take them," had been voted on by the United Earth Council in less than 30 minutes. The vote was not even close. Now the Defiant was heading toward the edge of human space, where long-range sensors had detected the Valdari fleet. The mission was simple: make contact with the enemy and find out what humanity was really facing. "Captain," Hae-jin said, "we're approaching the Kepler system. I'm detecting multiple alien ships." The main screen changed to show the tactical display. 50 crystal ships hung in space like beautiful jewels. Each one was perfect, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to glow with their own light. They moved in perfect formation like dancers following the same music. "They're gorgeous," Bo-Ra whispered. "Look at those hulls. I don't see any welds, any joints, any separate parts, at all. It's like each ship was grown instead of built." "Grown ships," Sung-ho said thoughtfully. "That would explain a lot. If their ships are alive, that might be why they're so advanced." Taemin studied his weapons display. "Captain, I'm not getting clear targeting data. Their hulls seem to be shifting somehow. My computer can't lock onto them." "They know we're here," Hae-jin reported. "One of their ships is moving toward us. It's big, Captain, maybe 2 kilometers long." On the screen, a crystal ship separated from the alien fleet and approached the Defiant. It was beautiful and terrifying, at the same time, like a giant sword made of blue ice. As it got closer, they could see patterns of light moving through its transparent hull. "Incoming transmission," said Bo-Ra. "They're using our own communication frequencies. How did they learn our technology so fast?" "Put it on screen," Dae-sung ordered. The main display showed the bridge of the alien ship. Everything was made of the same blue crystal, including the walls, the floors, and even the chairs. In the center stood a tall figure with skin that sparkled like diamond dust. When it spoke, its voice was like music. "I am Commander Nexus of the Valdari Empire," the alien said. "You pilot a primitive vessel into our territory. State your purpose or prepare to be destroyed." Dae-sung stepped forward. "I am Captain Dae-sung of the United Earth ship Defiant. We received your ultimatum. We're here to talk." Commander Nexus tilted his head. "Talk? Your species has already given their answer. You chose war over wisdom. There is nothing to discuss." "Maybe there is," Dae-sung said. "Your empire has conquered 17 galaxies. You must have fought thousands of different species. But you've never fought humans before. True, Nexus admitted, but we have studied your military capabilities. Your weapons are crude. Your ships are weak. Your tactics are chaotic. You cannot hope to stand against the might of the Valdari Empire. Xiong-Ho whispered. Captain, I don't think they understand us at all. Dae-Sung nodded. The alien commander was talking like humanity was just another species to be catalogued and conquered. But humans had something that couldn't be measured on any scanner. Stubbornness. Commander Nexus, Dae-Sung said. I propose a test. Ship to ship, your best against our best. Winner takes the system. The alien's crystalline face showed surprise. You challenge us to single combat? With that vessel? Dae-Sung looked around his bridge. The Defiant was small, ugly, and held together with spare parts and determination. Compared to the beautiful crystal ship on the screen, she looked like a garbage truck next to a work of art. This vessel, Dae-Sung said proudly. Commander Nexus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his musical voice carried a note of curiosity. Your ship is damaged. Your weapons are primitive. Your crew is small. Why do you think you can succeed where mighty empires have failed? Because, Dae-Sung said, you've never fought anyone crazy enough to try. Bora grinned and started checking her improvised systems. Taemin began running diagnostics on weapons that shouldn't work, but somehow did. Heejin plotted escape routes through gravitational fields that no sane pilot would attempt. Xiong-Ho prepared the medical bay for what was about to happen. Commander Nexus studied the human crew through the communication link. These creatures were clearly inferior in every measurable way. Their ship was a mechanical nightmare. Their technology was centuries behind Valdari science. By all logic, they should be begging for mercy. Instead, they were smiling. Very well, Nexus said finally. I accept your challenge. We will meet in open space in 1 hour. When your ship is destroyed, the rest of your species will see the futility of resistance. We'll see, Dae-Sung said. The communication ended and the crystal ship moved away to prepare for battle. On the bridge of the Defiant, the crew got ready for the fight of their lives. Bora, Dae-Sung said. How long until those modifications are ready? Give me 40 minutes, she said, already running toward the engine room. And Captain, you might want to hold on to something. This is going to get bumpy. Taemin loaded shells into guns that weren't designed to fire them. Hyejin calculated angles that violated several laws of physics. Xiong-Ho strapped down everything in the medical bay that could become a projectile. In 1 hour, the galaxy would learn what happened when perfect order met organized chaos. The Valdari Empire was about to discover that humans didn't fight fair, didn't give up, and didn't know when they were supposed to lose. The Defiant might be ugly, but she was ready for war. The two ships faced each other in empty space like ancient warriors preparing for a duel. Commander Nexus's vessel, the Crystal Talon, was magnificent. 2 kilometers of perfect blue crystal that caught starlight and turned it into rainbow patterns across its hull. The ship hummed with harmonic energy that made space itself vibrate. The Defiant looked like a metal insect next to a butterfly. Captain Dae-Sung's ship was only 400 meters long, painted in 3 different shades of gray where the paint hadn't been burned off completely. Smoke leaked from several vents, and one of the engine pods sparked occasionally. Both fleets watched from a safe distance. The Valdari ships maintained perfect formation, their crystal hulls singing in harmony. The human ships that had arrived to witness the battle were scattered in a loose group, each captain positioning their vessel where they thought they could best help if things went wrong. All stations report ready, Captain, said Bora from the engine room. Her voice came through the comm system with a background noise of grinding machinery and hissing steam. I've got the chaos field generators online, but I can't promise they'll work for more than 10 minutes. Dae-Sung nodded. 10 minutes should be enough. Either we win fast, or we don't win at all. On his weapons console, Taemin watched targeting. Data scrolled past in numbers that changed too quickly to read. Captain, I'm getting some strange readings. My targeting computer says the enemy ship doesn't exist, but I can see it right there. That's their harmonic shielding, explained Xiong-Ho from his station. They bend light and energy around their ships. Conventional sensors can't get a solid lock. Navigator Hyejin looked up from her controls. Jump drive is ready, Captain. I've plotted 17 different escape routes, including 3 that violate basic physics. Good, Daesung said. We might need all of them. A communication signal came from the Crystal Talon. Commander Nexus appeared on the main screen, his crystalline face showing calm confidence. Captain Daesung, Nexus said, I offer you one final chance to surrender. Your vessel is brave but foolish. I have destroyed over 300 enemy ships. The Crystal Talon has never been defeated. There's a first time for everything, Daesung replied. Are you ready to begin? I am ready, Nexus said. May your death be swift and honorable. The communication ended. Both ships began to move. The Crystal Talon approached like a hunting shark, smooth and deadly. Its weapons began to charge, creating notes of music that grew louder and more beautiful. The harmonic cannons were designed to match the resonance, frequency of any target and tear it apart from the inside out. The Defiant moved like a wounded animal, jerking and stuttering through space. But He-Jin was not flying randomly. She was creating a pattern that looked chaotic but followed rules that only she understood. Harmonic weapons charging, Taemin reported. They're trying to match our hull frequency. Let them try, Bora said over the comm, activating chaos field in 3, 2, 1. The space around the Defiant suddenly filled with crackling energy that sparked and twisted in impossible directions. The harmonic weapons fired, sending beautiful waves of destruction toward the human ship. But when the waves hit the chaos field, something strange happened. Instead of punching through the Defiant's shields, the harmonic energy scattered in all directions like light hitting a broken mirror. The perfect mathematical waves became random noise that couldn't hurt anything. Commander Nexus stared at his instruments in confusion. Impossible. Harmonic weapons cannot be defeated by random energy. Fire all weapons, he ordered his crew. Chatir, Crystal Talon unleashed its full power. Harmonic cannons, resonance torpedoes, and frequency disruptors all fired at once, creating a symphony of destruction that had leveled entire cities. The combined attack should have turned the Defiant into scrap metal, but the chaos field turned the beautiful, deadly music into static. The human ship flew through the storm of scattered energy like it was flying through rain. Our turn, Daesung said. Taemin, show them how humans fight. Taemin's fingers danced across his weapons controls. The Defiant didn't fire elegant energy, beams or perfect projectiles. Instead, it launched a cloud of spinning metal fragments, plasma bolts that spiraled through space in corkscrew patterns, and electromagnetic pulses that bounced off gravity wells. The Valdari targeting systems tried to track the incoming weapons, but they couldn't predict where the chaotic projectiles would go next. A spinning piece of metal would suddenly change direction when it hit a magnetic field. A plasma bolt would split into 3 smaller bolts that flew in different directions. Several hits struck the Crystal Talon's hull. The crystal absorbed most of the damage, but cracks appeared in the perfect surface. Report, Nexus demanded. Minor damage to sections 12 and 18, his crew reported. Hull integrity at 97%. But Commander, we cannot predict their weapon trajectories. They seem to follow no logical path. Nexus studied the tactical display. The human weapons moved like living things, changing course and behavior in ways that made no sense. How could anyone build weapons that didn't follow the laws of physics? The answer was simple. Humans didn't build weapons that ignored the laws of physics. They built weapons that used more laws than anyone thought possible. Taemin's spinning. Metal fragments used magnetism, gravity, solar wind, and the target ship's own energy fields to change direction. His plasma bolts carried tiny sensors that made them hunt for the weakest point in enemy shields. His electromagnetic pulses were designed to bounce around until they found something electronic to disrupt. They're adapting to our attacks, Nexus realized. Fire the resonance lance, maximum power. The Crystal Talon's most powerful weapon charged up, creating a note so pure and perfect that it could shatter mountains. The resonance lance was designed to match the exact frequency of any target and destroy it with a single pulse. But when the weapon fired, Bora was ready. Activating hull randomizer, she announced. Everyone hold on. The Defiant's hull began to vibrate at thousands of different frequencies all at the same time. The resonance lance tried to find the ship's natural frequency, but there wasn't one. Instead of a single note, the human ship was playing an entire orchestra of random noise. The perfect beam of destruction hit the chaotic hull and simply stopped. The energy scattered harmlessly into space. "How?" Nexus whispered. But the real surprise came next. The Defiant's hull had absorbed some of the resonance energy, and Bora fed it back through the ship's systems. The absorbed power overcharged the chaos field generators, making them stronger and more unpredictable. "Energy levels increasing," Bora reported. "We're getting more power from their attacks than from our own engines." Daesung smiled. "Then let's give them something to really think about." The Defiant accelerated directly toward the Crystal Talon. This was suicide by any reasonable military standard. Small ships didn't charge large ships, but the Defiant wasn't following reasonable standards. As the human ship approached, Taemin fired everything he had, but he wasn't aiming at the enemy ship. Instead, he fired at the space around it, filling the area with spinning metal, crackling, energy, and electromagnetic chaos. The Crystal Talon tried to destroy the incoming projectiles, but there were too many of them moving in too many different directions. Some of the debris struck the crystal ship's hull, others created interference that disrupted the Veldari sensors. In the confusion, Hyejin did something that no sane pilot would attempt. She flew the Defiant through the debris field that Taemin had created, using the metal fragments as stepping stones to change direction in impossible ways. The Defiant came out of the chaos field at an angle that the Crystal Talon's computers said was impossible. Before Nexus could react, the human ship was alongside his vessel, so close that their hulls almost touched. "Now!" Daesung shouted. Bora overloaded every system on the ship at once. The chaos field generators, the engines, the weapons, even the life support systems all poured their energy into a single massive electromagnetic pulse. The Defiant became a lightning bolt, every piece of metal on the ship crackling with random electrical energy. The pulse jumped from the human ship to the crystal ship like a billion tiny lightning strikes. The Crystal Talon's perfect systems tried to process the chaotic energy, but they couldn't. The harmonic computers were designed to work with pure, organized data. When faced with complete random noise, they simply froze. One by one, the crystal ship's systems shut down. The harmonic engines stopped singing. The resonance weapons went silent. The beautiful patterns of light inside the crystal hull flickered and went dark. Commander Nexus stood on his bridge in the darkness, surrounded by dead crystal that no longer glowed. His perfect ship, which had never known defeat, hung motionless in space. Through the silence came a human voice on the emergency frequency. "Commander Nexus, this is Captain Daesung. Do you surrender?" Nexus looked at his crew, their crystalline faces reflecting his own shock. In 300 years of conquest, this had never happened. The Veldari had never lost because they had never fought an enemy that could turn order into chaos. The silence in space was broken only by the crackling of damaged systems and the hiss of escaping air. Commander Nexus sat in his command chair, staring at instruments that no longer worked. Around him, his crew moved like sleepwalkers, trying to understand what had just happened. The Crystal Talon had been defeated, not destroyed, not damaged beyond repair, but simply stopped. Every perfect system had been overwhelmed by chaos and shut down to protect itself. The ship was like a person who had fainted from shock. "Status report," Nexus said quietly. "All harmonic systems are offline," reported his second-in-command, a female Veldari named Lyra. "The chaos pulse disrupted every frequency matrix in the ship. We have emergency power only." "Casualties?" "None, Commander. The ship protected us by shutting down all dangerous systems when it detected the chaotic energy." Nexus nodded. Even in defeat, Veldari technology worked perfectly. The ship had sacrificed its own function to keep the crew alive. But this created a problem no Veldari had ever faced before. What do you do when your perfect systems fail? On the Defiant, Captain Daesung was dealing with the opposite problem. His ship was still working, but just barely. Smoke filled the corridors. Half the lights were out and at least 3 separate fires were burning in different sections. Bo-Ra, Dae-Sung called over the comm. "How bad is the damage?" "Well, Captain," came Bo-Ra's voice through the static. "The good news is we're still in one piece. The bad news is I'm not sure how. According to my readings, the engine should have exploded, the life support should have failed, and the hull should have cracked in 12 places. But it didn't. Nope. In fact, some systems are working better than before. I think the chaos field did something to the ship's internal structure. We might have accidentally improved ourselves." Medical Officer Sung-ho appeared on the bridge, his uniform torn and his face smudged with soot. "Captain, I've been thinking about what just happened. This wasn't just a battle between 2 ships. It was a battle between 2 completely different ways of thinking." Dae-Sung looked at him. "Explain." "The Valdari build everything to be perfect," Sung-ho said. "Their ships, their weapons, their entire civilization follows mathematical rules. When they encounter something that doesn't follow those rules, they can't process it." Navigator Hye-Jin, who was trying to repair her damaged console with a piece of wire and some tape, looked up. "You mean they've never fought anyone like us before?" "Exactly," Sung-ho said. "Think about every human ship you've ever seen. They're all different. We take standard designs and modify them, repair them, change them until no 2 ships are exactly alike. Our weapons don't fire in perfect straight lines. Our tactics change based on what happens in the moment." Weapons Officer Taemin, who was cleaning plasma residue off his targeting system, nodded. "I've been in dozens of battles and I've never fought the same way twice. Every enemy is different, so every battle has to be different." "That's what I mean," Sung-ho continued. "Humans have spent thousands of years fighting other humans. We learned to adapt because if we didn't, we died. But the Valdari have been winning for so long that they forgot how to change." A communication signal came from the Crystal Talon. Commander Nexus appeared on the screen, but he looked different now. His crystalline skin seemed duller, and his perfect posture had slumped slightly. "Captain Dae-Sung," Nexus said, "I request permission to come aboard your vessel." This was unprecedented. Valdari commanders either won or died with their ships. They never asked to meet with enemies. "Permission granted," Dae-Sung said. "We'll meet in Cargo Bay 2. It's the only space big enough that isn't currently on fire." An hour later, the 2 commanders faced each other in the Defiance cargo bay. Bo-Ra had managed to clear out most of the smoke and rig some temporary lighting. The room still smelled like burning electronics and metal polish. Commander Nexus was tall and elegant, even in defeat. His skin caught the light and threw back, rainbow patterns. But when he moved, Dae-Sung noticed something interesting. The alien's movements were not as smooth as before. There were tiny hesitations, small uncertainties that hadn't been there during their first meeting. "You have questions," Dae-Sung said. It wasn't really a question. "Yes," Nexus admitted. "Many questions. How do you function with such disorder? How do your systems work when they should not? How do you fight without following proper battle doctrine?" Sung-ho, who had come to serve as translator and cultural expert, stepped forward. "Commander, may I ask you a question first? In all your battles, have you ever faced an enemy that got stronger when you damaged them?" Nexus thought for a moment. "No. When we damage an enemy, they become weaker. This is logical. This is how the universe works." "Not for humans," Sung-ho said. "When human ships get damaged, we repair them with whatever we have available. Sometimes the repairs are better than the original design. When human soldiers get hurt, they learn from their mistakes and become harder to defeat. When human civilizations face disasters, they rebuild stronger than before. But this creates chaos," Nexus said. "How can you build anything permanent if you are constantly changing?" "We don't build permanent things," Dae-Sung said. "We build things that can survive." Nexus was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his musical voice carried a note of confusion. "For 300 years, the Valdari Empire has conquered galaxy after galaxy. Every species we encountered built logical defenses, followed predictable strategies, created efficient systems. We could study them, understand them, and defeat them. But we're different, Hijin said. She had joined the group still carrying the piece of wire she was using to fix her console. Yes, Nexus said. You are random. Your ship should have been destroyed by our first attack, but instead it became stronger. Your weapons should have missed their targets, but they found ways to hit us anyway. Your tactics make no logical sense, but they worked. Taimin, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. Commander, can I show you something? He pulled out a small device that looked like a targeting computer, but it was covered in scratch marks and held together with metal tape. This is my backup targeting system. I built it from spare parts after my main computer got destroyed in a battle last year. He activated the device and numbers began scrolling across its small screen. According to any manual, this thing shouldn't work. The parts are from 3 different manufacturers, the software is a mix of 4 different programs, and I had to bypass 6 safety systems to make it function. But it does work, Nexus observed. Better than the original, Taimin said proudly. It's ugly, it's complicated, and it breaks down every few weeks. But when it works, it can target things that perfect computers miss. Nexus studied the device with fascination. You created order from chaos. No, Bora said, appearing from behind a stack of supply crates. She was covered in even more oil than usual and carrying a tool that might have been a wrench or might have been a weapon. We created chaos that works like order. There's a difference, she pointed to the cargo bay around them. Look at this room. Half the lights are broken, the air recycling system is held together with spare parts, and I think something is leaking coolant in the corner. But the room works. We can breathe. We can see. We can have this meeting. Your ship is the same way, Xiongho added. Every system has backups, and the backups have backups. When something breaks, you don't shut down and repair it perfectly. You work around it, fix it with whatever you have, and keep going. Nexus looked around the damaged cargo bay with new understanding. The humans were right. By Valdari standards, this room was a disaster. But it was functional, and more importantly, it was adaptable. If the lights failed completely, the humans would find another way to see. If the air system broke down, they would find another way to breathe. This is why we could not defeat you, Nexus said slowly. We were trying to solve a perfect equation, but you are not an equation at all. Exactly, Daesung said. We're a story, and stories can change their ending. For the first time in his long life, Commander Nexus began to understand that perfection might not be the only path to success. The ugly, chaotic, impossible humans had taught him something that would shake the foundations of the Valdari Empire. Sometimes, the best solution was not the perfect solution. Sometimes survival was more important than beauty. Sometimes chaos could defeat order by refusing to play by order's rules. The question now was, what would the galaxy do with this knowledge? The meeting in the cargo bay continued for 3 hours. Commander Nexus asked questions that no Valdari had ever needed to ask before. How do you plan for the unexpected? How do you build systems that work better when they're broken? How do you fight wars when you don't know what's going to happen next? The human crew tried to explain concepts that they had never really thought about. To them, chaos and adaptation were natural. Every human grew up learning to fix things with whatever was available, to change plans when circumstances changed, to keep trying even when logic said to give up. In our empire, Nexus said, when a ship is damaged, it returns to a construction facility where expert technicians restore it to perfect condition using original parts and precise specifications. That sounds expensive, Bora said, and slow. What if you're in the middle of a battle? Valdari ships do not get damaged in the middle of battles, Nexus replied. Our shields are perfect, our armor is flawless, our tactics are proven. We win quickly and cleanly. But what if you don't? Taimin asked. What if the enemy does something you don't expect? Nexus was quiet for a moment. Until today, that had never happened. Xiongho leaned forward. Commander, may I ask about your empire's history? You've conquered 17 galaxies. Did you ever meet anyone who surrendered immediately? Of course, Nexus said. Many species choose wisdom over destruction. When they see the power of the Valdari fleet, They realized that resistance is futile, and the ones who didn't surrender, immediately, they fought briefly, realized they could not win, and then surrendered. How long did these wars usually last? Nexus thought. The longest war in Valdari history lasted 6 months. Most are over in weeks or days. Heejin looked surprised. 6 months? That's not a war. That's barely a skirmish. Human wars have lasted for decades, sometimes centuries. Why would anyone fight for centuries? Nexus asked, genuinely puzzled. If victory is impossible, continuing to fight is illogical. Because sometimes victory isn't the point, Daesung said. Sometimes you fight because surrender is worse than death. Sometimes you fight because you believe in something more important than survival. And sometimes you fight because you're too stubborn to quit. This makes no sense, Nexus said. Logic dictates that survival is the primary goal of any species. Humans aren't very logical, Seung-ho admitted. We do things that don't make sense, all the time. We take apart perfectly good machines just to see how they work. We risk our lives to save people we've never met. We fight battles we can't win because we think someone should. Nexus studied the humans around him. They were small, weak creatures compared to the Valdari. Their technology was primitive, their ship was falling apart, and their tactics were chaotic. By every logical measurement, they should have been conquered in minutes. But they had won. I must return to my ship, Nexus said finally. My Emperor will want a full report. What will you tell him? Daesung asked. The truth, Nexus said. That the Valdari Empire has encountered something it cannot easily defeat. That there is a species in this galaxy that fights with weapons we do not understand. Unpredictability, adaptation, and refusal to accept defeat. And then, Nexus was quiet for a long moment. I do not know. For 300 years, the Empire has followed the same strategy. Demonstrate overwhelming power, demand surrender, conquer, or destroy. This strategy has never failed. Until now, Bo-Ra said. Until now, Nexus agreed. The Valdari commander prepared to leave, but Daesung stopped him. Commander, I have a proposal. Speak. Don't attack us, don't try to conquer us. Instead, let's try something different. Let's try working together. Nexus tilted his head. Explain. Your people have perfected order and harmony, Daesung said. You can build things we can only dream of. But you've never learned to adapt, to improvise, to survive when everything goes wrong. And humans have mastered chaos, Seung-ho added. We can fix anything, survive anywhere, and keep fighting when all hope is lost. But our technology is primitive compared to yours. You're suggesting an alliance? Nexus asked. I'm suggesting we learn from each other, Daesung said. Imagine what we could accomplish together. Valdari precision combined with human adaptability. Your harmony working with our chaos. Nexus considered this. In all of Valdari history, they had never formed alliances with other species. They conquered, they ruled, they brought order to chaos. They did not learn from primitives, but these primitives had just taught his perfect ship a very hard lesson. This proposal is unprecedented, Nexus said. I do not know if my Emperor will consider it. Then help us convince him, Taemin suggested. Show him what we accomplished today. 2 ships that should have been enemies working together to create something new. We didn't work together, Nexus pointed out. You defeated me. Did we? Heejin asked. Your ship is damaged but repairable. Your crew is alive and unharmed. You learned something about warfare that might save Valdari lives in future battles. And we learned that perfect doesn't always mean unbeatable. That sounds like cooperation to me, Bo-Ra said. Nexus looked around the cargo bay one more time. The humans had turned a storage room into a meeting place using broken lights, improvised furniture, and determination. It wasn't beautiful like Valdari architecture, but it worked. I will take your proposal to Emperor Corvin, Nexus said, but I cannot promise he will accept it. The Valdari way is ancient and proven, and the human way is young and crazy, Daesung said with a smile. Maybe it's time for both our species to try something different. After Nexus returned to his ship, the crew of the Defiant gathered on the bridge to watch what happened next. The crystal ship's systems slowly came back online one by one. Beautiful patterns of light began flowing through its hull again as the harmonic computers restarted. But something was different. The patterns weren't as perfect as before. There were small variations, tiny changes that hadn't been there at the start of the battle. "Look at that," Bora said, pointing at the sensor readings. "Their harmonic frequency has shifted. It's like they absorbed some of our chaos, and we absorbed some of their order," Seung-ho observed, checking the ship's systems. "Our power distribution is more efficient than it was this morning." The Crystal Talon began to move away, but before it rejoined the Valdari fleet, Commander Nexus sent one final message. "Captain Daesung," his voice came through the speakers, "I have learned something today that I must share with my people. The universe is larger and stranger than we believed. There are solutions we have never considered, victories that look like defeats and strength that comes from accepting weakness." "What will you tell your emperor?" Daesung asked. "That the age of easy conquest is over," Nexus replied. "That there are species in this galaxy who do not follow our rules, who cannot be predicted or controlled, who grow stronger when they should grow weaker. And that humanity is one of those species. Yes. And that perhaps the Valdari Empire could learn to grow stronger too." The communication ended. Both fleets began to withdraw, not in defeat, but in mutual understanding that the galaxy had become a more complex place. As the Defiant turned toward home, Daesung looked out at the stars and wondered what would happen next. Would the Valdari Empire continue its conquest? Would they accept humanity's proposal for cooperation? Would they try to adapt their perfect systems to handle chaotic enemies? He didn't know. But for the first time in 300 years, neither did they. The universe had gained a new variable, humanity. And variables, by definition, were unpredictable. The galaxy would never be the same. The end.